Welcome to another episode of Field of Screams podcast. Today we'll be talking about Hellraiser Bloodline. This is the fourth movie of the Hellraiser franchise, and I will admit, I was a little nervous heading into this one. The third one seemed like a step down in terms of quality. You hear all these things about the Hellraiser sequels, the later ones not being very good, and then I hear we're going to space in this one, so I was like, ugh, I'm probably heading towards some trash here. Well, let me just say this. You can say this movie's flawed, but you can't knock the ambitious direction they try to take. I mean, the idea of going all the way back to where the puzzle started, and the puzzle maker is cursed, and then we follow his bloodline as it goes. So really we see three different time periods. I do think that was just a really interesting idea. I like the idea. I mean, way back to when it all first started. I mean, it's pretty fun to see an Adam Scott in this time period. It's one of those nice little surprises. It's like when you go to watch the first Leprechaun and you see Jennifer Aniston. It's just a nice little surprise. It's like, oh wow, you don't hear Adam Scott talking about this movie too often. But I like the beginning time period. I felt like this, out of the three different time periods, I feel like this one had the least amount of problems. It seemed pretty straightforward. Going way back then, there's a toy maker, and then there's Adam Scott, and Adam Scott's like hanging around this like old creepy dude, and the old guy, like, he just looks like he's rotten from the inside out. Like, you could tell he's wearing makeup, but he just does not look healthy one bit. He definitely seems evil, which, I mean, that is the intent. Like, they said he was obsessed with the dark arts. When they lure the one girl in, they tie her down. And I feel like the guy went really overboard with tricking her. Like, literally, there was like a Thanksgiving feast on the table. And Adam Scott's like, yeah, come on, sit on down. I want you to meet this guy. We got this big dinner. And the guy like pulls like ribbons or ropes like out of his sleeve. And he's like, oh, he's a fan of magic. And the girl's like, oh, ho, ho, ho. And then they like tie her down. And then she realizes that they tricked her, and all the food on the table is like rotten. There's worms, there's bugs and insects. And it's like, did you really have to go that far above and beyond to trick her to tie her down? Like, I'm pretty sure there was a simpler way of doing it, but this is the way they decided. But once they kill her, I mean, like, it does feel like that classic Hellraiser type movie. Like, it's gross. You see tons of gore. They perform a ritual, and, she becomes Angelique. I think that was the name they gave her. But all that felt very in Hellraiser territory. And the part that made me laugh is the toy maker guy, after he delivers the puzzle box, he's literally like staring through the window, and he's just like obsessed with like what he's seeing. And man, if that was me, I would have hightailed it. They never would have knew I was in there, which makes me curious if he never came back and tried to do whatever he tried to do. Would they still have like pursued him and cursed his family line? That I don't know, because he did make the box. So I maybe he would have been tied in some way or another, and they would have tried to figure out a way to take care of him. But, him continuously going back. Then he tries sneaking in. And he's like, I gotta have the puzzle box again. He's like very obsessed with it. And I guess that is a theme of these movies. Like, they are greedy. But the old gross guy, he's like passed out on a chair. He's like all bloody. There's like barbed wire in his mouth. And Adam Scott's just getting it on with the demon lady. And he like reaches for the puzzle, and the old guy's like, nah! But then like hurts himself because he's like all barbed wired up. Very like creepy and disturbing scene, and eventually he dies. But I feel like the entire part in the beginning, I like that part a lot. I really did. Now the middle part is where like the gigantic chunk of the movie is. Adam Scott and Angelique, they don't age because they're using dark arts. They end up killing the old man. I guess he never travels with them. He probably died when he was like all tied up in the chair, all barbed wired up. But we see further in the bloodline, like, there's a new toy maker, and he is the hottest engineer out there. He's on magazines. That's how you know he's a big shot. And Angeline, is it Angeline or Angelique? I gotta look now. Angelique, that's what it is. Angelique wants to go and hunt down the toy maker, the son of it, the engineer. And immediately Adam Scott, like he's just, she even says like you're bored, and he's just like getting drunk, and he just doesn't care about anything. But she says that she wants to go meet the toy maker, and he's like, no, we're not doing that. Screw America. And then she ends up killing him because I guess that was like one of the rules when she was resurrected. Like he couldn't stand in the way of hell. So that gives her permission to kill Adam Scott, unfortunately. He's gone. But I feel like it's this part of the movie where it gets very foggy, or it kind of loses the plot a little bit. Um, him making this like building, and he makes it in the image of the little puzzle box, which is a very odd thing. There's like even gears inside the building, and we get to see the girl who plays the girlfriend in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. What's her name? Kim Myers. That's what her name is. She plays the wife of the toy maker's son, or whatever, further down the line. I'm just gonna call them all toy makers because there's three of them, and it just keeps going down the family line. She does a very good job, and it's almost disappointing to me because I'm like, man, she stars in these popular franchises, but it always seems like the wrong movie. Like a lot of people almost kind of disregard Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I know it's getting a lot of love now. But wouldn't it be something if she could have been in Dream Warriors, or like even with like Hellraiser, if she was in one or two? Because this one is kind of a wonky movie. She's a fantastic actress. And I don't know, I feel like she just doesn't get the credit she deserves. But anyways, we get ourselves into this crazy plot to where Pinhead gets brought into the picture, and when he sees this building, he's like, oh my gosh, this is not a room. This is the Holocaust. And Pinhead immediately wants the toy maker to open up the portal to hell. Angelique wants him to open up the portal for her own reasons. And then there's just like toy maker, he's trying to like balance those two demons and living his everyday life as a husband. And I don't know, like I just feel like sometimes the plot, it's like, wait, like what do both of them want? Like, what are we doing here? And like both of them are like traumatizing the toy maker. I guess he'd be the building maker at this point, but you know what I mean. But there's literally a point to where Pinhead takes his son as hostage and like almost harasses the wife, saying like, oh, I love your suffering, but I'm here on business. And like takes the entire family hostage, and it's like, this is not the Pinhead from 1 and 2 where they are very rule based. Again, just like in the first part, Angelique is very good in the modern day part. I also feel that Pinhead, even though he is not neutral anymore, I mean, we lost the neutrality in 3, but I was wondering if in 4 they would try to make him a little more middle based. But it appears they did not. Like, once he saw this building, he's like, nope, like, we're gonna burn this shit down. Watching the two guards become the Siamese Cenobite, that was very cool. There's also, like, a big muscular chatterer dog, and that thing's, like, chasing the family around, like, during this whole middle part. Um, and yeah, like, I don't know, again, like, it was just kind of, there was, like, parts I liked, and there was parts that I felt like that was done really well. But then there's parts where I'm watching it, I'm like, I feel like this is getting murkier and murkier as we go. And Pinhead ends up killing the toy maker. Like, he does it in a really cool way. Like, throws this like zip line thing through his neck, and then it shoots out these blades and it just like decapitates him. But Kim Myers, or the toy maker's wife, she ends up defeating them all by just like turning the puzzle box over a few times, and then she like launches them back to hell. And then that takes out Angelique and Pinhead. So it was kind of like just an abrupt finish to that whole, plot line there. And their poor kid, man, that kid's gonna be scarred after he's seen these two demons like fighting over him. Like, Pinhead's literally walking around with his nipples out, and Angelique's trying to seduce his dad, and I don't know, there's just pretty tense stuff that the kid has seen. The futuristic space part, I didn't mind that part so much, but I also I felt like it might have been the weakest part of the three, even though it wasn't as murky as the present day. It just seemed very simplistic. It's a guy took a ship in the middle of space. He had a robot solve the puzzle so that Pinhead and all of his goons would come out. And then he had an elaborate trap set up in the ship. Unfortunately, those like police officer troops, they kind of like stopped the whole trap, and a lot of them get killed, end up being, just bodies for the movie to happen. It was cool to see the death of Pinhead, like his actual death, and he dies by the ship becoming, a little puzzle box and just like shooting a whole bunch of light into the ship, and that's the way he goes. So it is very cool seeing like the very beginnings of the puzzle box and the beginnings of where we see Pinhead and going all the way to the end to where the box gets destroyed and Pinhead gets destroyed, and we see it all throughout one movie. Here's where I think this movie goes wrong. Obviously, there was studio interference. I did look it up afterwards, and there was a lot of mention of lots of studio interference. And I just don't, when you have these three drastic time periods, unless you have characters that don't age like Angelique and Adam Scott, which only Angelique basically makes it out of that, it's very hard to create characters that you care about when you spend so little time with them. Each time we got down the toy maker's bloodline and it was a new one, there was one in space. We'd be with them just enough. Like, I liked them, I liked their family, and like it was a little different. But like when one of them would die, I wasn't sitting there going, oh no, like not him. Like there was really none of that. Like this almost feels like a documentary of the puzzle box and Pinhead itself. And it's very cool. It's very different. I don't think, if I had to put money on it, I doubt there will be another movie like this in the Hellraiser franchise. It has to be pretty unique, and it's been unique so far. Again, when I heard we're going to space, I was expecting like worst case scenario, because that's just usually the stereotype that these movies that go to space usually bring. But it wasn't the case. Like I did like enjoy it. I liked the time jumps at the time. But I feel like when it's all said and done, and when you're looking at things as a whole, I feel like it just kind of struggles a little bit because we don't get to build these characters up. There's not enough time. Here's where the studio really messed up, if they wanted to interfere that much. These three different time periods, it should have been three different movies. This could have been Hellraiser 4, 5, and 6. And you could have fleshed out the very beginning of the puzzle box. Like imagine a whole movie dedicated to that. That old, creepy, disgusting looking guy. Who is he? Tell me more about him. Have the toy maker do some other things. Show us him getting obsessed with the box and, more of him trying to imitate it, and maybe him talking to Adam Scott and kind of building up the plot that way. This was the beginning of Angelique. This should have been like her movie, her origin story. Like this could have been like the very first Hellraiser movie, like whenever they brought Frank back. Like this could have been like that for Angelique. Like it could have been really interesting. And it just would have been like the same type of movie, I guess, just in older times, if that makes sense. So get this, this is probably a title of one of the movies down the line, but this could have been Hellraiser Genesis, like where it all started. That would have been a more proper movie, and we could have focused on the earlier times then. Then we move on to the Engineer movie, the middle part of the movie where like the majority of the plot happens, it gets murky. Like, use an entire movie to describe the plot you're trying to do. Like, have Angelique move on from the Genesis type movie. She's the returning character. She's the girl that you wanted to return after Hellraiser 2, but she didn't want to return. And they wanted to build her villain up. They could have done they could have done that with Angelique, and then have her move on to this new movie where it's about this engineer and it's passed on through the bloodline. Then we follow this guy around and eventually he dies. And by the end of this movie, like things could get so bad and all the Cenobites and Angelique, they become so powerful, you could call that one Apocalypse. No. Call that one, what's something that happens before Apocalypse? So Revelations. We could probably go Revelations. Then after that one, we go to space, and this one focuses on him, trying to set up the trap ship. And then, like, you could bring in the police stormtrooper people in later in the movie, have him establish a relationship with that one girl, like he does at the end of this movie. That way, when he finally kills Pinhead and kills the box, whenever they're flying off together, you actually care about that girl, which I feel like if you watch this movie now, you don't really care about her. All she is a cop just listening to him. And he's like, oh, listen, like, it's true. And she's like, maybe. And then she sees all of her coworkers get killed. And then, like, she ends up living because she's like, okay, I'll get on the ship and fly away. We could have built that up more. And that one could have been Apocalypse. Or, I don't know, any other biblical term that means, like, the end of times, whatever. So yeah, that could have been 3 solid movies they had in a row, but they decided to shove it all into one movie. So again, it makes it very unique, but I feel like it also makes it have problems. And I know there's also a thing, studio interference. And I guess it was so bad the director didn't even want his actual name attached to the movie. But it wasn't terrible. I did not hate watching it. There were a lot of parts I liked. I already kind of described them. But again, it just felt like sometimes like the movie just, I don't know, it became foggy, or like it just felt like there were problems that existed, and it's like I can't quite put my finger on it, but I can tell there's major flaws here. It just felt like we jumped around, like we're either very quick. There were scenes there that probably didn't need to be there. And it could have been, that time could have been used to explain things a little more, make it a little more elaborate. But yeah, I digress. It's not a terrible movie again. It's certainly a different flavor than Hellraiser 3. That one was certainly a different type of tone. Like, I felt like this movie they took very, very seriously. I don't recall a lot of moments where, like, it was intentionally cheesy. I do feel like they took a pretty ambitious swing and just didn't connect with enough of the ball, if that makes sense. So yeah, this has been my review of Hellraiser Bloodline. If you're listening, thank you so much. If you could give this video a like, it gets it out to other people. Tell me what you think about this movie, because this movie is very unique. Again, it felt like a documentary. It's kind of crazy just how they formed this movie together. But tell me your thoughts. I'm sure they will differ. Some people will probably hate it. Some people will probably love it. Other people will probably a little bit in between. Tell me what you think in the comments. And again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time.